after you've defeated your rival on the Indigo Plateau? Well, there are still battles to be had with other kids, pitting your most powerful Pokemon against your friend's most powerful Pokemon, locking eyes day after day, getting to see new moves, new Pokemon. Imagine if you went to Cerulean Cave one night and found Mewtwo. Your best friend has no idea what a Mewtwo even is, but you have one now, and you should.
Hey yo everybody, what's up? Tom here, back at you with another video. Yeah, I figure we're just gonna keep doing the monk. I'm making some decent progress on the monk, so let's keep it up. Let's keep going with that bad boy. Got to fix my background real quick. Also got to fix my drip. There we go, that's better. Something that's deliberate, something that's intentional. That's all I'm asking for. Okay. So, my build is okay. I finally got fucking Frenzy, so I'm trying out Charge Staff. I just don't like that they nerfed Frenzy. There's probably support gems I can get for Frenzy that make it better, actually. Okay, support gems, da-da-da. So, support gems. Alright, let's go for... Well, let's just grab one of each. Combat Frenzy. Now, what's the problem here? Spirit. %30 chance to grant an additional charge. That's pretty good. Isn't there one that makes it like not count as using a charge? Grant an additional random charge. So additional random charge would be probably, it could be a frenzy charge as well. But all charges are generally good. They have some sort of passive buff, so that's another thing that's helpful. Clarity would be nice, but I need more spirit. What's upwelling? Well, I might as well just do this. I mean, I've got the level 5 skill gems. I can always just buy more, like literally farm a couple of maps on my Deadeye. So, who cares? Alright, amazing. So, that should help with sustaining frenzy charges, or power charges, whatever. I got a dump here. Oh, I had skill gems in my fucking inventory. Oh, well. That was a fine enough use of a level 5. Let's try this level 3 here. We're gonna check out Combat Frenzy. Yeah, I mean, what I would like is clarity. What I would like is clarity, but I need spirit for that. I can probably get spirit from something I have in my stash. We're gonna look for spirit on items here. Level 64, nowhere near. Well, this gets me spirit, so we'll take that. Can't use that. Okay. Can't use that, level 51. Focus, nope. Can't use. Wait, is the helmet? Wait, this doesn't have spirit. Why is this showing up? Okay, I've got so much evasion from this. So that's it. So the main thing I'm going to lose here is energy shield and mana, a lot of mana regen. But I'm getting clarity. So is there anything else good that I'm getting from this? No, not really. Clarity gives me less mana regen than this would give me. So screw that. It's so stupid that that you can't use the new trading system until you get to Act 4. When it would be the most useful for these early levels when you're just trying to buy a shitty low-level item for 1 exalt. It's like, that's the exact type of thing that I would want to use it for, but you're not allowed to. Fuck. This is 30 spirit. I'll tell you what else I get from this. Is I get an additional spirit skill if I have a gem for it. Oh, I could get the wind thing. That's evasion. I have that, right? I thought I had Wind Dancer. No, I never got Wind Dancer on this guy. Fuck. Could do Vitality and Clarity. No, let's just stick with it where it is for now. Oh, we need to put supports in charge staff. Perpetual charge is pretty good, no? I already have Living Lightning, right? I'm pretty sure I was using that. Close combat's probably really good. Like close combat and elemental armament is probably really solid. And then I spend one more on perpetual charge. I think that makes the most sense. Boom, boom, boom. Also, do I have any high level ones, maybe from Ice Strike? Oh, Final Strike of supported skills ancestrally boosted. Verglass. Destroying an ice crystal grants supported skills 1% of damage gained as extra cold damage for 6 seconds. Per 2,000 maximum life of the destroyed ice crystal. Sounds good. There's rapid attacks as well. Wait. Why do I already have close combat too? Oh my god. I just cut. For no reason. I didn't even check what I had in here. Jesus Christ. Look at this. I already have these two. What a waste. Perpetual charges. What a fucking waste, man. I should have used a level 1 skill gem for that as well. That's okay. I'm tilted right now for no reason. Alright, Survey.
What do you need?
What am I doing? Survey?
What do you need? Take your time. I'll take it.
Ah, fuck it. I'm just selling this shit.
Don't drink the water.
I'm twinking anyway, right? This is gonna make me so OP.
And shatter they shall.
This is ridiculous. Okay. Now, we're ready to go. So my biggest problem so far has been that I'm pretty squishy. But I do a lot of damage.
This works.
And my clear should be a lot better now. So, we'll see how it goes. So I was able to convince one of my friends to try this game. He likes D4. And I was like, bro, play Path of Exile 2 with me, dude. And so the free weekend came. Oh my god. Okay, that doesn't feel very good. Why am I doing ZDPS with this? Oh, close combat. I already had charge perfusion. Oh no. I wasted so many skill gems. Alright, rapid attacks.
They still work.
Three charges stacked up. Do they all go away after that timer runs out, though? Who cares? Alright, come on, guys. When you're completely twinked out. Oh man, you can overcome much. I'm thinking about going for this siphon. No, 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 no. Chaos inoculation is right there. But I think it makes more sense to go into deflection. Meta skills. I should do cast down freeze something, right? Because I'm constantly freezing. I want to do cast down freeze something. Is this thing good? I'm thinking about buying a supporter pack and getting some stash tabs. Like some merchant tabs, maybe. Maybe an MTX or two. And I guess the 25 dexterity gives me some usefulness. I do feel like maybe going for critical chance is pretty good. Because part of this build is increasing your critical chance. Here, let's just look at Glacial Cascade here. Critical chance, I'm at 5.9. If I got 20% increase, it'd go up to like what? 6.3? Something like that? 6.6 maybe? And you're also getting the damage bonus. And then we got 12% increased crit chance over here. I can also increase my crit chance just by stacking evasion or energy shield. there's these nodes. So stacking this energy, stacking evasion on the tree does not help give me energy shield from Spectral Ward. But it does help me get damage. No, it says equipped armor items. I see. Stacking this on the tree doesn't do much. How do you consume combos? After all that, I just went for that.
Freezing strike!
Maybe the heralds don't go off as much with that charged staff.
Back to the soil.
It's not that annoying to just keep reapplying the charge staff. Once you get passive power charges, it's no big deal. This zone isn't that bad anymore. I kind of like how linear it is, actually. Watch this. This is cool.
For Utzal to reveal its secrets.
We should look at the vendor, for sure. You only have limited amounts of uses of the gambler, so gotta be judicious with that. Once you get into the end game, you can use it as much as you want, but it's a lot more expensive. Level 10 power. I haven't been using Glacial Cascade at all.
Drain the... Oh. Don't get eaten.
Yeah, nothing really good.
I had no idea how enormous this cigarette really is.
Beyond this sealed, I recommend. Until next time.
Show it off. You brag a little. You battle them with it and completely mop the floor with them because Mewtwo has godlike stats in a generation where psychic types are fucking broken. Sorry, what? This feeds into a sense of both game-created and player-created Pokemon mythology. Finding Mew under the truck near the SSN, wondering what the hell that flying bird was in the first episode of the anime, and attempting to decipher whatever a Peekaboo is supposed to be. Those are just the popular ones, popular myths before the internet communication age. Countless other stories, rumors, and legends exist across the world that some of us still don't even know about. This is the wrong generation, but I remember reading a Pokemon Emerald strategy guide with my friends back in the day, and we thought that some coffee stain was actually a Manaphy egg hidden at the Battle Frontier. These games were so mysterious to the underdeveloped mind. This is a story that only my friends and I remember fondly. Imagine just how many different stories like that exist. How many hundreds of thousands across the globe? It's magical. Early Pokemon enjoyed several years of uninterrupted wanderlust, with kids obsessively playing Pokemon, talking Pokemon, collecting Pokemon, trying to find Pokemon that didn't even exist. These are powerful nostalgia agents. I'm fairly certain the design goals for Pokemon were to create a game that allowed for this social intimacy at its core, surrounded by an RPG crust, and it was a resounding success because their priorities were extremely well placed.
To become a great Pokemon trainer, Ash must catch as many as possible by battling his own Pokemon against the other. Once the Pokemon has been weakened in the battle, Ash can catch it within a Pokeball. The captured Pokemon become loyal to Ash, who must choose the correct type of Pokemon to use when battling with another. Like a rock, paper, scissors match, it's all about strategy. There are 15 Pokemon types, including electric, flying, bug, grass, fire, and water, to name a few.
Pokemon was a game designed to be a social experience from its very inception, with just enough endearing designs and Backbone's rock, paper, scissors gameplay to carry the experience for children. Red and Blue don't strike me as games that were meticulously designed or tweaked for a single-player campaign in the same vein as Final Fantasy. Part of this might be due to the limited memory available to Game Boy cartridges, but I'm sure just as much consideration went into the potential primary demographic. Each Pokemon can only carry 4 moves, trainers can only battle using 1 monster at a time, and can only carry 6 in a party. Most of your potential strategy comes via a set of 15 types that each have individual matchups. The Elemental Trio is a fine example. Fire beats grass, grass beats water, and water beats fire. Easy to understand and perfectly balanced across the 3 starter Pokemon. It's when you venture onward that it isn't nearly as clear-cut. Some of them are natural, like fire burning grass, water putting out fire, the earth grounding electricity, and because of that, these are the easiest to learn. The more ethereal types, stuff like Psychic and Ghost, are more confusing because they don't follow any logical through line. Why is Psychic weak to Bug? Simply because Psychic needed a weakness. Through this vast array of strengths, weaknesses, and immunities, we reach what is, on paper, a balanced in-game meta. Except rarely is anything as good as it is on paper. Psychic and Dragon clearly dominate the type chart with virtually no matches because they were weak to types that were simply no competition. The Dragon type is a less severe example since it only affects the Dragonite line, but I'm going to use it to demonstrate a larger issue. Dragon types were weak to both the Dragon and Ice type, with the caveat being that the only damaging Dragon-type move in Gen 1 was Dragon Rage, a set damage move that never changes its attack power even when it's super effective. In reality then, Dragon became the most defensive type because it resisted fire, water, electric, and grass with only the ice type as a weakness. The ice typing is held by a whopping 5 Pokemon, with ice type moves learned by level up obtained at or around the level 50s. That means there are only 5 Pokemon that benefit from same type attack bonus with ice type moves, a concept which means that if the move you're using is the same type as the Pokemon using it, the move does 50% more damage. Here are your options against Dragon type Pokemon. 1 of 5 ice types, or 1 other type that can learn Ice Beam or Blizzard. Only once, because TMs are single-use items. Use up Ice Beam or Blizzard on the wrong Pokemon, or just never find those TMs in the first place, you've just lost a crucial weapon against the Dragon type. Again, even though that means Dragonite, paired with its near legendary tier stats, has virtually no weaknesses, this at least isn't a problem that spans multiple Pokemon. In fact, as future games would come to show, Dragon types are supposed to be limited in number, extremely powerful, and kinda rare. This sheer strength can be dismissed on that front alone. No, the more blatant problem, and the reason I feel this whole type system was maybe cobbled together haphazardly, is the Psychic type. By far the most comically overpowered type of any game in the series for a myriad of reasons. Like the Dragon type, it only has one weakness: Bug. In this case, there are far more Bug-type Pokemon than there are Ice-type Pokemon. But here's the kicker. Bug-types usually have horrendous offensive stats. Bug-types existed mostly to give the player an early look at how evolution works, and to give them a bit of an edge early game with a strong, fully evolved Pokemon. Beyond the 2nd or 3rd gym, their usefulness often wanes. In Generation 1, there were 3 offensive Bug-type moves: Leech Life with 20 base power, Twin Needle with 25 base power plus a potential second attack, and Pin Missile with 25 base power plus a random chance of hitting anywhere from 2 to 5 times. There is not a single Bug-type move with more than 50 guaranteed base power by these calculations, so you basically need Pin Missile and a lot of luck. Problem: only 2 Pokemon are capable of learning Pin Missile by level up: Beedrill and Jolteon. Beedrill learns it at level 30, and Jolteon learns it at level 48. Beedrill is also the only Pokemon of the 2 that benefits from same type attack bonus. What about Twin Needle then? Seems like a safe second, right? The only Pokemon that learns Twin Needle is Beedrill. It's cool, Beedrill has a signature attack, but this means that Leech Life is the most common Bug-type attacking move, and the fun doesn't end there, oh no. Not only is there not a single Bug-type TM in Generation 1, 2 of the objectively strongest Bug-type Pokemon, Scyther and Pinsir, cannot learn Bug-type moves. I'm not joking here. They are Bug-types that, for no discernible reason, don't learn a single Bug-type move. Think about that one for a second. Psychic types though, oh, they have Confusion with 50 base power plus a chance of confusion, Psybeam with 65 base power plus a chance of confusion, Dream Eater, which does 100 base damage to sleeping Pokemon, and Psychic, which does 90 base power and can be learned by Venonat, Venomoth, Kadabra, Alakazam, Slowpoke, Slowbro, Drowsy, Hypno, Staryu, Mr. Mime, Mewtwo, Barterfree, Clefairy, Clefable, Jigglypuff, Wigglytuff, Poliwag, Poliwhirl, Poliwrath, Ghastly, Haunter, Gengar, Execute, Exeggutor, Chansey, Starmie, Electabuzz, Magmar, Lapras, Porygon, and Snorlax. Fighting and Poison types have it very rough this gen. Must suck to be a Team Rocket grunt. Oh yeah, remember good old Beedrill, your frontline fighter against Psychic types, your stalwart defender against the most broken type of the first generation? It has a dual type shared between Bug and Poison. Bug types do not resist Psychic at all, but Poison is weak to Psychic, which means the best defense against Psychic-type Pokemon and moves is itself weak to fucking Psychic. Oh boy. The mere existence of the Psychic type throws the type chart into complete disarray, however well balanced the idea may have initially been. This discourages certain types of Pokemon, and in a way, it kinda defeats the purpose of having such a wide selection in the first place. These first 2 games only really have battles in them. There's no contest side mode or anything like that. Making a team is integral to the experience, and when there's such a clear imbalance, it makes some choices far more appealing than others. Though it isn't wholly the fault of the type chart, it's also down to how the game uses it. Unfortunately, good designs do not necessarily equal good utility. I love the design of Ponyta and Rapidash. They're your average horse, except their manes are on fire. Simple, hilarious in a way, but I've always connected with them as a pyromaniac. I want to ride one. Sucks then that Ponyta and Rapidash are physical-based offensive fire types, just about the worst thing you could possibly do to these poor bastards. Types are broken into two groups, physical and special. Entire typings are given classifications for the calculations that go on behind the scenes with clashing stats. For instance, fire-type attacks will be special by virtue of their fire typing, so the power of the attack will be based on the attacking Pokemon's special stat, and subtraction occurs based on the receiving Pokemon's special stat. Let's take a level 40 Rapidash using Ember against a level 40 Kadabra. Through a set of calculations that are super fun and interesting, we come to the conclusion that Kadabra will lose a minuscule amount of health
Ronor
due to
here,
the special
and
stat
I've been playing a lot
Now,
of
if
mock
fire
builds
was
in
a physical
0.3.
type,
But in
Rapidash
this
would
video,
rely
I want
on
to
its base
showcase
100
something
attack stat,
special.
which would help
The
it far
fastest
more.
and probably the
Alas, many
strongest
Pokemon
build
were
for
cursed
mock.
with this mismatched type-to-stat ratio. Flareon has the exact same problem. High attack, no fire-type moves to take advantage of it. You can't have a psychic type that is primarily a physical attacker. I mean, you can, no one's gonna stop you, but it will be incredibly ineffective. Similarly, you can't have a rock type that is primarily a special attacker, not even a dual type between rock and ground. This is fine in and of itself, but how about we further scramble this mess of a type chart? Take Kadabra with a 120 special stat. We aren't even talking about Alakazam yet, bear in mind. Compare Kadabra to a physically defensive Pokemon like Onix. Kadabra is so much better than Onix, for so many reasons, but let's focus in on one particular disparity. Onix has a very respectable defense stat at 160, while everything else is pitiful at best. Kadabra is in a similar boat with its 120. special stat. The difference here is that Onyx only has one good stat, while Kadabra technically has two. Onyx will tank physical hits like they're nothing at all, with the trade-off being that it can't fire back. Kadabra doesn't have a trade-off, because it fires off special attacks at 120 while also defending special attacks at 120. Let's say you use a physical move against Onyx. Yeah, he can tank it, but he won't be sweeping you anytime soon because its attack stat is so low. If you use a special attacker against Kadabra, it will tank the hit and then decimate with a counterattack based on the same stat. What this essentially means is that special typings are objectively superior to physical typings in most instances. Types like water, grass, electric, did somebody say psychic? These types have more going for them than normal, flying, or ground, and it limits your Pokemon choices quite a bit. It isn't to say you won't use a physical attacker, since it can bypass special Pokemon fairly easily, just that special Pokemon end up being more useful in more situations, and since types are classified as either physical or special, that means entire typings will end up more useful than others. There's a reason Alakazam is so good. There's a reason you don't see a lot of Onix or Golem. There's a reason you see Starmie and Cloyster. There's a reason you don't see Beedrill or Butterfree. All of this is child's play compared to the many other issues that exist in Gen 1. Speed being proportional to your critical hit rate, meaning that faster Pokemon get more critical hits. Moves like Focus Energy, cutting your critical hit rate instead of doubling it. Moves like Wrap and Bind, preventing you from attacking, easily stun locking. Moves that raised your stats so high that your numbers would roll over into lower numbers. This stuff is insane. I understand that bugs and design quirks are an inherent part of the process, and you're never going to be able to wash them all. I'm more surprised by the sheer quantity and severity of some of these issues. Take Wrap and Bind, for instance. They can attack anywhere from 2 to 5 turns, dealing a small bit of damage over time. Neither Pokemon can do anything until Wrap runs its course, and the opponent is still going to be doing damage that entire time. It's like an extended variation of Fury Swipes or Pin Missile. Not only can it be frustrating to sit back and slowly watch your health drop, if your Pokemon is slower than the opponent, there is absolutely nothing stopping them from deathlocking you. Erica's gym has a ton of Pokemon in it with the move Wrap, and there were several points where one of my Pokemon simply couldn't act out of this broken Wrap lock. The issue could potentially get even worse when sleep enters the picture, which in Generation 1 takes away your entire turn to wake up. Theoretically, this means that you can be sleep locked and subsequently Wrap locked at the same time. It punishes you severely for having slower Pokemon, and a surprising amount of trainers throughout Kanto have the move on at least one of their Pokemon. These problems often branch out into the overall level design.
To become a great trainer, Ash has to capture all of these amazing Pokemon creatures. And there's a lot he's got to know in order to catch them all.
Gotta catch 'em all!
That's why Professor Oak gave him his first Pokédex. It's the newest model with the latest digital technology that will give Ash instant Pokemon information with greater clarity and better reception than ever before. I need to upgrade my model.
I want to take a look at the first area, which I count as the length of time spanning from when you first get a Pokemon all the way up to obtaining your first gym badge. Your first choice is between Charmander, Squirtle, and Bulbasaur. For this first area, the only two sane options are Squirtle and Bulbasaur, unless you want to have a really bad time. What Pokemon can you catch before going up against the first gym? Pidgey, Rattata, Nidoran female, Nidoran male, Spearow, Caterpie, Weedle, and Pikachu. What are the good options against Rock-type Pokemon? Well, Pidgey and Pidgeotto are normal flying types, so all of their moves are resisted by the Rock typing. All of Rattata's moves are once again resisted by the Rock typing. Caterpie and Weedle are in pretty much the same boat. Pikachu's not only extremely rare, but I mean, have you watched the anime? Not a great pick. Butterfree is realistically the only option that makes sense, because it learns Confusion and Poison Powder for some reliable special damage and status ailments to whittle down Brock's team. But even then, there's no guarantee that Butterfree will even last that long with its piss-poor defense. Plus, I recently learned that status ailments don't mean anything, because gym leaders can instantly heal them on a whim. The moral of the story here is that your early game difficulty choices are easy, or grind until it becomes easy. Squirtle learns super effective moves against rock types, and so does Bulbasaur, leaving Charmander in the dust. Now, I don't expect Pokemon games to be perfectly fine-tuned with a smooth difficulty curve, as that's practically impossible. Unlike other RPGs, Pokemon has an unprecedented amount of variables to account for. 15 different types, even more type combinations, type matchups, 150 different Pokemon you can control, and the player chooses to do whatever the hell they want with any of those Pokemon at any given time. Asking any team of human beings to perfectly balance a game with that many options would be hell on earth, and I will never demand perfection of any Pokemon game. I actually like the idea that your Pokemon selection affects each game's difficulty organically, meaning you struggle at different points depending on what team you build. I started with a Charmander on my most recent playthrough, caught a Caterpie, and trained it up to Butterfree so I could stand a chance. The fight itself was refreshingly challenging for a veteran, and even got me to develop more interesting strategies to survive. But I do have limits. There is a point at which I draw the line, and this is one of those cases. This is the beginning of a video game, where you're meant to learn and absorb the mechanics in order to use them for the rest of your 20 or so hours beating gyms. An especially salient point given that this was the first game in the series to not have a single worthwhile option outside of your starter against a typing that is primarily physically defensive is frankly absurd, and means that any poor soul who picks Charmander is in for an unholy amount of grinding. The worst part, though, is that there are only 3 or 4 trainers in Viridian Forest to fight for a sufficient amount of experience. The rest of your grinding will be done against wild Pokemon, which give less experience because they're wild, and even less because they're much lower leveled than anything in Brock's gym. I had no idea what I wanted to use against Brock, so I had to just grind up all the Pokemon I had that wouldn't die in 5 seconds, so that they could hopefully lower Onyx's attack faster than they died trying. Fun fact, did you know that critical hits disregard status changes? When I lowered Onyx's defense around 5 times, critical hits were suddenly a huge detriment to my attack power because the calculation is done on the base power of that attack, disregarding all defense or offense changes. You can bet this led to my death in more than one endurance battle. This is a cyclical frustration until you're high enough level. You start off with a limited amount of money, there are only 3 or 4 trainers which are currently your only source of money, and whenever you lose a battle, some of that money just disappears. Maybe you can cheese some of the fight with potions when Brock's Pokemon aren't one-hit KOing you, but those potions are finite use items that don't respawn after a team wipe, and if you lose enough times after continually saving the game, you won't have enough money to buy more potions. When you're out of money, you're out of options. This is when the grind kicks into high gear. Grinding to absurdly high levels outside Pewter City, running back and forth in this patch of grass to the Pokemon Center. Yeah, I think there might be a problem here. It's not even just that your Pokemon take a lot of damage, it's also that they do little to no damage thanks to the type matchups. When a move is not very effective against a typing that is highly defensive, that health bar will not budge, while they naturally coast through the fight with normal damage even when they're lower level than you. Type matchups matter just that much to a battle. The solution, I feel, would be to not start the game out with such a highly defensive typing. Instead, perhaps using the normal type would have been a good compromise. While it may not teach you right away about type advantages, it means that no matter which starter you pick, the early game won't be split between 2 radical difficulty extremes. As a base single-player RPG, it still works past Pewter City since there are a lot more Pokemon and thus a lot more options. Your Charmeleon's also gonna suck against Misty. The difference here is that you have at least some reliable options. Unfortunately, you kinda have to put up with a lot of uninteresting filler in between gym leaders. The stuff you do in between Brock and Misty is on rails. You go from point A to point B, which isn't inherently a bad thing. But trainer battles are rarely, if ever, challenging, and random encounter rates are really damn high. So what you quickly realize is that all you're doing in between gyms is walking through hallways, getting interrupted constantly by wild encounters and trainers, until you finally, maybe, get challenged by the gym leader. Making monotype bosses will railroad you into learning type matchups for sure. It just doesn't always make for a challenging fight. If you have an answer to a gym leader's defined typing, you win. Lieutenant Surge is located in Vermilion City, right next to the Diglett Cave. Diglett is a ground type, meaning it resists all of Lieutenant Surge's Pokemon, and so if you go catch a Diglett, the deed is done before you've even begun. The fights that often matter are the ones that don't follow the rules of their own supposed skill set. Lance, the final member of the Elite Four, is supposedly a master of the Dragon type. Is he, though? 2 of his Pokemon aren't even Dragon types, they merely resemble dragons. This is obviously because the Dragonite line are the only Dragon types in the first generation, but this also made for one of the coolest fights in the entire playthrough. Why? Because his team was unpredictable. All of a sudden there was a Water type, a Rock type, no longer could you sweep him with Ice type moves. Compare that to Blaine, a team of 4 pure fire types. Gee, I wonder what I should use to beat him. The only time in Generation 1 that I've ever struggled against a gym battle is against Brock, at a time where my options were severely limited. Even Sabrina can be challenged after you've already completed most of the other gyms, giving you time to raise your levels. Despite how much I've rattled on about this, I don't mind too much because I've never exactly needed these games to be Omega Shenron Dark Souls hard. I'm only mentioning it because so many people insist that the original games were challenging and that the new ones pale in comparison. Generation 1 is certainly buggier and more frustrating, but that doesn't really make it more difficult, it just kind of makes it more time consuming. Enemy Pokemon have really odd move pools that don't take advantage of their strengths, and I can't even begin to discern how their AI is programmed. Sometimes they come across stupid, and other times it's as if they cheated, which is probably because they can actually read your inputs in this generation, meaning they can basically read your mind. But I guess that's offset by them selecting Agility for the 18th time in a row because it's a Psychic type move, and they're programmed to use super effective moves even if those moves don't do damage. Playing for footage, instead of building a team, I decided to just use Pokemon as I got them, to encourage myself to experiment. Even without creating a team that would cover my weaknesses, there weren't any in-game challenges that made me want to pull my hair out, which I guess is all I can really ask of any Pokemon game, really. I want a majority of the encounters to at least make me think about what I'm doing on a deeper level. I don't need constant team wipes or anything. Unfortunately, Generation 1 has just never struck me as a particularly thought-provoking entry in the series until maybe late game. It's especially grating in some of the long, confusing dungeons you're forced to slog through. It's one thing to plow through a place like the Pokemon Tower, a fairly short set of rooms with a few trainer battles. It's over and done with before you know it, and there's even a neat little story about a dead Marowak. On the other hand, Silph is a frustrating nightmare of a dungeon, built around memorizing warp tiles and battling trainer after trainer after trainer. In most future Pokemon games, I would be okay with a long dungeon like this, but in Red and Blue it's difficult to defend due to the myriad of weird issues it has. Trainer AI is unremarkable, meaning that any fight you get into leads to an audible groan. A limited inventory means you'll constantly be deciding which of your valuable items to throw away, leading to a bunch of time spent in the inventory menu. Since you usually have to fight most trainers in these games to keep all of your Pokemon at a sufficient level, that means you're going to have to battle around 30 brain-dead trainers that almost all have the same Pokemon. I can at least commend this dungeon for having an interesting gimmick, unlike Mount Moon and the SS Anne, but it's hard not to notice that Silph is just a longer, more tedious rendition of the Rocket Hideout in Celadon. That dungeon was 3 floors long, had a decent spin tile gimmick, and still had the boss battle against Giovanni at the end. You don't really need Team Rocket to do much more than that. They're already spread across the Kanto region causing trouble, and the gym leader fight with Giovanni is a good enough end to his story. I don't think you needed to fight him on 3 separate occasions to drive the point home that they're troublemakers. We don't need hours of useless trainer battles. We don't need hours of wandering around in caves that have nothing in them but strength puzzles, dear lord. The act of playing through Red and Blue is sometimes akin to trying to shave your beard by plucking out each individual hair one by one. Oh, dear God.
I wanna be the very best, like no one ever was. To catch them is my real test, to train them is my cause.
Do Ash and Misty have what it takes to be Pokemon Masters? Only if they can capture as many as possible while battling Team Rocket's treacherous tricks. Catch all the action, each day, right here.
Pokemon, weekday mornings at 6:30 on Fox 43.
It's clear that Red and Blue weren't trying for anything new in terms of typical RPG design. As I just mentioned, there's a limited inventory, a frustrating trope with pretty much every older RPG. Progression is often halted in strange ways, like a guard needs a drink to prevent you from entering Saffron City before you're supposed to. Then again, there are interesting roadblocks like the sinking Snorlax, because it allows you to fight and catch a new Pokemon you can't find anywhere else. It seems like anything you do regarding these colorful creatures is always going to be an inherently interesting roadblock. You run into a flaming horse, and why the hell wouldn't you want to catch and raise it? The design of Ponyta and Rapidash are appealing. This classic design philosophy is key to the success of the first generation. I have a lot of favorite designs. Pikachu is a pretty popular one, but I think Raichu's design goes a bit underappreciated. Its tail is a sharper thunderbolt at the end of a wire. It uses its tail to ground itself and protect it from the higher voltage that's taken into its body, most likely as a result of it being more powerful than Pikachu. I like the moodier color choices accentuated by the darker orange and brown. It creates less of a contrast than Pikachu's pure yellow, black, and red, but I think it just makes it cuter. Sandslash shares this same kind of brown to offset the darker yellow, and you'll find that most Pokemon in this generation weaponize that simplicity in their design. Sandshrew is an armadillo, Meowth's a cat, Haunter's a ghost, Vulpix is a fox. I guess you could look at this design mentality as a little too tame. I mean, there's a bird, a rat, a bat. It's no secret that lots of these designs are based off our real world, just as Kanto is based off our real world in Japan. I can sorta understand that complaint, but I think we'd lose a connection to these monsters if they were too far removed from our reality. Personally, I've never had a connection to Digimon, precisely because their designs felt too imaginative and busy. That's not to say their designs are bad, I just never connected with them the same way I did Pokemon. Without even the smallest identifiers, like Ponyta's horse body shape or Zubat's bat wings, I don't think I would resonate as strongly with the original 150. One could certainly argue that that level of restraint is a lost art. Just look at the legendary bird Zapdos, a lightning bird said to cause thunderstorms and live amongst the clouds. Articuno, a bad omen to passerby within frigid climates. And Moltres, a bird that's said to bring an early springtime in cold lands. Really, they're just birds, but the mythos backing them is fascinating. It's fun to explore the world and happen across them by chance. Zapdos and Articuno are in optional dungeons, and Moltres is hidden away at Victory Road for some reason. They have extremely high catch rates, making it an ordeal in itself to catch them all, but you're rewarded with incredible stats to carry you through the rest of the game. You also get to speculate even more about what these Pokemon are through your Pokedex entries and associated lore. How did Zapdos end up at the power plant? What is Articuno doing at the Seafoam Islands? The fact that you only get one shot to catch them speaks volumes. They're one of a kind, and that's what makes them so special. Of course, these three birds pale in comparison to the true powerhouse legendary of the first generation, Mewtwo. Here's a Pokemon built up within the game itself before you even catch wind of its location. The Pokemon Mansion on Cinnabar Island has hidden journal entries about a Pokemon named Mew and the efforts of a group of scientists to clone it. It's not much, but it's enough to get you wondering, and when you finally gain access to Cerulean Cave, there it is, Mewtwo, arguably the strongest Pokemon in the first generation. A failed clone of Mew that escaped captivity and now lives in isolation. It's not a huge set of legendaries, but they each have their own areas and are easy to appreciate after reading their Pokedex entries. Gaining more insight into the world of Pokemon by catching them is a genius way to fill out the world. Lots of people prefer the original designs to the newer designs, the region of Kanto to the region of Sinnoh, Team Rocket's simplicity to Team Galactic's deeper motives. I wholeheartedly understand where these people are coming from too. Kanto is a wonderfully designed region. I love how the map closes back in on itself after Cinnabar Island. It has this magical effect where the Elite Four are practically in your backyard, but you have to go prove yourself before you can challenge them. Surfing up from Cinnabar, finally figuring out where that little pond at the bottom of Pallet Town led to, it feels great. Red and Blue still have the most freedom in terms of what gyms you want to tackle, which is kinda crazy. After the second gym, you don't necessarily need to visit gyms in a linear order. You could theoretically skip Lieutenant Surge and go explore other cities. Hell, if you blitz your way over to Koga, you can learn Surf and fight Blaine. Now, some of the gym leaders have comparable levels. Sabrina, Koga, and Blaine are all around the same level, and these are really the three that I alternate between on subsequent playthroughs. There's really no point in skipping Surge or Erica anyway, as their teams are so low level that you won't exactly be coming back to a challenging fight. This middle series of gym leaders is one of my favorite parts of the entire region. There's so much you can choose to do here. Will you take the cycling road or the boardwalk? Will you challenge Sabrina right away or take on Koga? Which gyms are you more confident you can battle with a lower level team? It might seem like a minor degree of freedom to some, but you have to keep in mind that future games have taken away any semblance of progression-based choice, so feeling any degree of freedom again, however flawed, is pretty refreshing. Each route has its own set of Pokemon to make sure that discovering new areas endows this satisfying feeling of adventure onto the player, even if what they're doing in the moment is a bit repetitious. All of a sudden, there are new monsters appearing, and you get this overwhelming desire to catch them and see what they can do. With this recent playthrough of Red, I caught a Clefairy in Mount Moon and a Drowsy next to Vermilion City, not because I ran around planning to catch them, but because I found them by chance while exploring and decided to use them. That's the other thing, too. You won't just be roaming tall grass, you'll explore caves, seas, cities, power plants, and other locations based off our real world. The groundedness of the setting and activities lend to its thoughtful construction. There's a cycling road, a tour ship, a Pokemon graveyard. In that sense, it's reminiscent of Earthbound, a fantasy JRPG rooted in modern visual aesthetics. Everything in Kanto revolves around Pokemon. They help build things, they help make things, they coexist with humanity. The plot is that a team of thugs want to disrupt that harmony. Team Rocket steal Pokemon like thieves would steal from convenience stores, so naturally you step in and single-handedly dismantle their entire operation from the ground up, because they're trying to stop you from having fun. Giovanni isn't supposed to be this deep character with unclear motives. He's just a bad guy, one who steps down after recognizing your strength and is revealed to be a gym leader, one of the only genuine twists in the entire series. That's not even the only twist. Take your rival. He plays a big part in making your adventure feel meaningful. Another person who has a team that evolves with you, a team that battles with you at multiple points throughout your adventure until the champion battle against him at the end. This is a point of reflection, remembering past encounters, all the times this SOB told you to smell him later. It all bubbles up to a champion battle that matters for more reasons than just the title. Think about it another way. Your rival beat you. He was always one step ahead of you. He became the champion first. He realized both your dreams first. And even if he does end up losing, it makes the final battle that much more of a grudge match. You're forced to accept how diverse his team is and acknowledge his strength. He is one of the best fights in the game because of that diversity and unpredictability. But he also rushed through it all. He scouted out the toughest Pokemon and made a beeline for the league so fast that he missed out on the legendary birds. In his quest to become the strongest, he ironically missed out on some of the toughest and most fascinating Pokemon in the world. He was so focused on the destination that he never got to experience the journey quite like the player did. Game Freak could have gone all out and crafted a rich narrative, I'm sure. It wasn't unheard of at the time, but I think the theme you'll consistently run into with Generation 1 is restraint. I don't blame them either, for the record. It was a smart move to start simple, get everything down that mattered, and clearly. Unfortunately, a solid RPG it may be, there are still some glaring holes in this thin crust that seemingly never mattered at the time and make these two games exceedingly difficult to revisit. A rough but uncompromising vision.
Look who's back. And this time, the two of you are partners in the latest installment of the Pokemon saga. It's Pokemon Yellow, the special Pikachu edition for Game Boy Color, where it's you and Pikachu catching as many as you can together. Look for the Pokemon Yellow Bundle Pack. It includes a limited edition Pokemon Game Boy and Yellow Game Pack.
I guess it is worth noting that another game was released in this generation. In 1999, Pokemon Yellow would hit American shelves, so I guess it's worth briefly going over some of the changes. Spoiler, there's not much. This would start the trend of definitive versions releasing within the same generation. Although this particular version continues to be a strange case, unlike Crystal, Emerald, and Platinum, Pokemon Yellow is directly inspired by the anime. The main character is meant to be Ash and not Red. You're given a Pikachu to start with that never evolves, sprites now resemble the anime, and Jessie and James appear throughout. This is the only Pokemon game, barring its remake, that doesn't allow you to pick from a set of 3 starters, and instead forces a Pokemon onto you. It actually locks you into a Charmander choice situation, where your main Pokemon is ineffective against the first gym leader. Despite its similarities to the anime, simply brute forcing Onix with a Pikachu isn't going to get you anywhere. Thankfully though, Pokemon Yellow has changed a few things about Red and Blue. One of those being that you can catch a Mankey before Pewter City learns the fighting type move Low Kick at level 9. No longer will you be completely screwed early game, which I appreciate. Another cool, difficulty-related change concerns your rival. He receives an Eevee from Professor Oak, and he will evolve it based on your performance in your first 2 fights with him. If you win both times, he will evolve his Eevee into Jolteon. If you win the first fight but lose or skip the second, he'll evolve his Eevee into Flareon, and if you lose the first fight, he will evolve his Eevee into Vaporeon. I really like the idea behind this, that if you win both fights, he'll resist your Pikachu, but if you're struggling, he'll be weak to your Pikachu. It's a little unfortunate that your first fight with him decides any of this, considering how luck-based these first fights always are, but I really like this in theory, and the series would never attempt to do anything like this again, which is a real shame. Unfortunately, for as much as Yellow version changed, it didn't exactly have the opportunity to shift everything that Gen 2 would eventually overhaul. The special stat still exists, almost every bug in Red and Blue are still present, as far as I'm aware, there's still a limited inventory, etc. It's probably my preferred version for the little changes. The sprites actually resemble Ken Sugimori's original artwork, Pikachu follows you around in the overworld and you can interact with it. Farfetch'd and Lickitung are no longer locked behind in-game trades. I think it's kind of neat that you fight Jesse and James before Giovanni, not that it really adds much. Pikachu can learn Surf if you do the surfing minigame, which is surprising but not really necessary. Oh, also Charizard can finally learn Fly, which is good because that never made any sense. I've exhausted Bulbapedia to find these changes and almost none of them even matter. I guess that just goes to show that the problems with Red and Blue run pretty deep. Don't misunderstand me, I still respect Red and Blue. I love almost everything about them conceptually. The simplicity, the adventure, the designs, yet that can only go so far. I'm not willing to put up with this stuff for long periods of time, and I'd be lying if I said I revisit these games often. I'm sure there are those who swear by the originals even with the bugs, the quirks, the imbalances. It was their childhood, their Pokemon, and I get it. I'm not here to tell anyone off. I'm not here to make anyone angry. I'm not here to invalidate anyone's experiences, only to share mine. If anything, playing the first generation again, it's impressive to me what Game Freak were able to pull off their first time. It proved to me that the core of Pokemon is timeless and has the ability to span multiple generations, multiple childhoods, to create memories that we'll treasure forever. And all of it started with less of a game and more of an event. That's the ultimate strength of the Game Boy's most popular title, a social event masquerading as a time-traveling video game.
The Hyperbolic Time Chamber, or the Room of Spirit and Time, is a place in the Dragon Ball universe where time is much different than what we know. One day equals one whole year inside of this room. The place is also full of unsafe elements, and that's why today we're going to be explaining the Hyperbolic Time Chamber. Hey, how's it going? My name is Raph, and welcome to Dragon Ball Code. And today we're going to be talking about the Hyperbolic Time Chamber, or the Room of Spirit and Time, and what happens in it. And if this is your first time here and you like Dragon Ball content, consider subscribing because this channel is all about Dragon Ball. In Dragon Ball, the Time Chamber is mostly used by the Z Fighters whenever they want to train for a long time, but they have a very short time to do it. And it has been used by many different people like Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, Goten, Trunks, and even Piccolo. It is located in Kami's Lookout all the way up in the air, so to reach it you either have to climb Korin's Tower or fly. It's a pretty special place, but what goes on in there that's so special? Well, although the Time Chamber is located on Earth, once you open the doors, you immediately travel to a different dimension. Once the doors close, you are completely shut off from the outside world. And here, there's a small building with beds, a bathroom, a table, a pantry that can hold enough food, and a huge clock above the main area. This is basically a living area inside of the Time Chamber. On the outside of the building, there are two huge hourglasses filled with emerald powder that give the user the current time of the year inside of the chamber. The building is located in a huge empty white space where day and night cycles don't exist. It's always bright white. According to Goku, the whole area of the chamber is as big as Earth. And wandering too far can be dangerous because if you happen to get lost, the chances of you surviving become really slim. And it all has to do with the fact that One, finding that little building in a huge white area could be almost impossible, and two, the conditions inside of the time chamber are very extreme. The gravity in there is 10 times the gravity of Earth. That's the same as the gravity on King Kai's planet and planet Vegeta. Air is also very thin. The time chamber has only a quarter of the amount of air that there is on Earth. Another thing that is very extreme are the temperatures. They can fluctuate from minus 40 degrees to 120 degrees in a short period of time. And one thing that can kill you is that apparently the further you get away from the building, the more extreme the conditions get. The gravity doesn't change, but by far one of the most useful elements of the Room of Spirit and Time for the fighters is that inside of it, a full year would be only a full day on Earth. And this can give them the advantage over someone training outside because they can get a whole year worth of training in just one day. And this is great, especially for the Saiyans, for they can reach new levels of power within a short amount of time. The time chamber in the past originally had these rules. It could only be entered for a minimum of 2 years at a time, meaning 2 days on Earth. If the person stayed longer, they wouldn't be able to exit. They would be trapped in there forever and no one would be able to use the door again. Another rule that the time chamber had was that it could only be used twice in a person's lifetime. But all this changed when the time chamber was destroyed by Boo. And then they fixed the time chamber, he got rid of all these rules, making the place more useful for the Z fighters. So the hyperbolic time chamber, or the Room of Spirit and Time, is an amazing tool that our heroes have. It can really be the test of time, but surviving the training in the extreme conditions of this place can really make you a tough son of a gun. If you could, would you ever train in here? And if you enjoyed this and you would like to support my channel, please check out my Patreon page in the description below. And of course, if you like Dragon Ball content, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you can get notifications whenever I post a new video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you later.
BioShock is a game which has never quite fit into any other category of games for me. It's horror, but you feel powerful enough for it to never really be overly frightening. It's got a 1920s to 1940s kind of vibe, but with a lot of futuristic steampunk technology integrated into it. From what I remember, it did what it did seamlessly, and then it went on to spawn a couple of sequels. The only other games I can think of which give off the same kind of feeling which BioShock does are the spiritual predecessors of System Shock 1 and 2. Oh, and maybe Prey 2017. And while I enjoyed BioShock Infinite when it came out, I don't think it ever felt as fun or as unique or as good as the first game did to me. I can't really place my finger on it, and it may just be rose-tinted nostalgia peeking through. But it always felt to me that if the first BioShock is akin to something like Prey, then BioShock Infinite is akin to something like Dishonored. And while I enjoyed Dishonored for what it was, it didn't scratch the same itch the way that Prey did, which is the same void that the original BioShock filled. Ironically, Prey and Dishonored share the same developer who also worked on BioShock 2. But either way. It's been 13 years since BioShock was first released into the world, and 6 years since the series has breathed anything new into existence. So I figure that now's as good a time as any to try and see if BioShock was as good as I remember. Before I jump in, there's a small issue of the remaster versus the original version, at least on Steam. The remaster came out 4 years ago and touted slightly better graphics, but at the expense of a lot of stability in the game. Plenty of reviews and searching around complain about corrupted saves, audio glitching, and consistent crashing on the remaster, so I'm gonna skip out on that and stick to the original. As you might well imagine, there are going to be tons of spoilers from the game, and if you have any notion of playing it for yourself, I highly recommend that you go do just that before watching this. So BioShock begins with your plane crashing over the Atlantic Ocean in the year 1960. You survive the crash and find yourself floating in the wreckage with a giant moonlit tower not too far away. The building creaks to life as you enter it, with the words on the banner in front of you relaying a strong message: no gods or kings, only men. As you make your way further in, you discover your ticket further down into the sea, a bathysphere. As you plunge further and further into the depths of the Atlantic, you're greeted with a slideshow, a bit of propaganda played for the potential future residents of the underwater city of Rapture. The man whose voice echoes throughout the sphere is that of Andrew Ryan, the man who seems to be the mind behind this Atlantis-like city. He criticizes the US government for not compensating the hard work of poor Americans properly. He criticizes the Vatican for using its hard-working people in the name of God. And he criticizes Russia for distributing its people's hard work evenly across the board. Then he presents Rapture as the solution, as a place where a man can work hard for themselves and build up the city accordingly, where artists can create without censorship, where scientists can experiment freely and invent without restrictions. Many of these inventions seem to be plastered across Rapture's walls as little advertisements for something known as plasmids. They promote the idea of fire springing from your fingertips, of being able to control objects with your mind, touting the idea of human evolution with their use. Wow, sounds great. What could go wrong? Well, you discover almost immediately what could go wrong, as a man named Atlas sends a guy down to help you out from the bathysphere who promptly gets eviscerated by a psychotic woman with a scythe. As she gives up trying to pry you out of your tuna can, Atlas speaks to you over the radio at your side, asking if you would kindly pick up the radio and listen to his instructions to stay alive. Well, his instructions consist of, grab a crowbar or something, and I do the rest as a splicer awaits me and I promptly bash his brains in. The little signs leading me up the path indicate that a protest began at some point down here. Rapture's residents seem to have a strong resentment for the creator of the city, Andrew Ryan, as various slogans cry out against his control over them. Turns out that even someone promising complete freedom wants something from their people in the end. Well, as I ascend to the top of this area, one of those glowing red tinctures of evolutionary fluids awaits me, along with a syringe. I get no prompt from Atlas to do anything with it, so I choose to do something that anyone would do without any direction. I blast this gigantic needle straight into my wrist in the hopes that I get high as fuck. Well, I unfortunately don't take a cool drug trip and instead get lightning hands, putting the shock in BioShock. I guess that's the second best outcome here. The initial surge of energy from chunking a murder hornet-sized needle into my arm causes me to freak the fuck out as Atlas assures me that nothing insidious is happening, only that my genetic code is being rewritten. Completely normal stuff. Well, I pass out in the best place possible, over this railing. A couple of splicers come by to try to harvest something from me that they refer to as Adam, before a Big Daddy comes by and scares them off. Big Daddies are those gigantic drill-clad diving suits of nautical terror pictured on the box art of the game. These giant, voiceless monsters tend to be led around by these small, undead-looking little girls called Little Sisters. The one who stumbles upon my half-conscious body refers to me as an angel and decides to leave me be. The start of this game is really well done in my eyes. is, as it plunges you into the ocean and throws all of these new ideas at you, but not in a confusing way. Sure, there's a lot of mystery as to what all of these somewhat human creatures are, and how Rapture ended up this way, but it isn't overly complicated by any means. So moving on to the next section has this chunk of plane smash into the airlock tube, which... Alright, so I know we're in fucking Atlantis, and I just punched a hole in my arm and gave it the electric slide, but I'm almost certain the pressure from the water forcing its way into the tube would kill me one way or another. Oh well. On a more pressing note, this game has some extraordinarily dark corners. I get that it's supposed to add a certain intensity to these freakish splicers jumping out at me, but I found it more tedious than anything else. It's only worsened by the fact that stuff like these Vita chambers are incredibly bright and make the contrast more extreme. Vita chambers are your checkpoints. If you die, you respawn there, so seeing one in a more intense area of the map is a relief a lot of the time. They remind me of the save crystals in Legend of Grimrock in that regard, even though that game came out later than BioShock. Fantastic game, by the way. As you make your way further into the belly of Rapture, Atlas pleads to you, imploring you to help find his wife and child who are trapped further in. He also explains to you why the splicers are the way that they are, elaborating on the fact that plasmids basically drove people insane. As it modified their bodies, it also altered their brains and thinking.
I got working folk coming in from Port Neptune trying to catch a little diversion. And all I can think about is the stink coming out of your shitter.
Progressing further reveals that something sinister happened on New Year's of 1959, at least 1 year ago. Not only are there signs of a broken up party all over the place, but a handful of tapes play back some of the events just before the thing which damned Rapture occurred. In addition to this, you occasionally get some sort of ghostly visions of random Rapture citizens experiencing negative effects of splicing their DNA with Eve, the evolutionary concoction which you've been using to fuel your big Sith energy. Anyways, this shit starts to pick up in pace as Atlas asks you to kindly lower your weapon when you stumble across a little sister. The cutscene that plays out is awesome and brutal, as it shows the harvesting process which Little Sisters perform. They've apparently been modified by scientists to be the little monsters that they are, and they use their syringes to stab the corpses of splicers, gathering the latent evolutionary energy from their bodies as pure atom. This stuff is what fuels the plasmids which grant superhuman powers to its host, and every splicer knows it and wants it. The scene that unfolds showcases not only the primal desire to claim this tasty tonic as a splicer comes in and just sucker punches the child into the ground, but also the protective capabilities which Big Daddies were designed to exhibit when said child comes under threat. These capabilities include falcon punching enemies into a wall and making their drills go brrr. Awesome. At any rate, I carry on through this fancy-looking hotel-type area, taking out splicers and the like. This game really loads you up on first aid at the beginning, so much so that I keep stumbling across kits that I can't pick up because my health is already at full. Fortunately, the game throws a lot of splicers at you to offset this veritable bounty of health. Apparently, Andrew Ryan is still alive, as he sends splicers after you for being either a CIA or KGB agent. At this stage, I'm unsure if the message is pre-recorded or live, but Atlas helps to evacuate me away from the 3 whole enemies that Ryan throws at me. The place he evacuates me to is the medical area of Rapture, and just in time, as I'm really in dire need of first aid kits after that brutal escape. Moving into the reception area of the medical pavilion has me picking up a tape recorded by the lady from before who was there when the New Year's attack happened. She does describe it as an attack, and goes on to say that a Dr. Steinman was to patch her up afterwards. Steinman reoccurs later in this area, lauding Andrew Ryan for freeing him from the burdens of morality as a scientist and allowing him to experiment on the human body without restraint. The big new mechanic introduced here is hacking. Hacking a robot or a machine basically has you playing a pipe dream game where your goal is to reveal tiles to get the goop from one end of the pipe system to the exit. I always remembered enjoying this little minigame, though I will say that the mouse sensitivity for this game is god-awful. If I want to play the game without my mouse snapping behind me with a slight nudge, I gotta move the sensitivity down to 1. But doing this causes my menu mouse to move slower than US weed legalization, so I have to increase it to 2 to hack effectively and then bump it back down afterwards. Eventually I just give in to learning how to play at 2 sensitivity, as being unable to pause in a hack menu makes trying to hack a turret in mid-combat excessively stupid. At least, That's what I would say if I didn't have my Logitech gaming software.
Introducing the Logitech gaming software, the software that's useful for making your mouse glow any color you want. You can also adjust your DPI, I guess, but it won't matter because you'll be distracted by all the cool fucking colors your mouse can make. No one knows what any of these buttons do, but by God, I'm sure that—
Anyways, when I finished the hack, I'm now the proud owner of a flying robot that sounds like someone unleashed a horde of bees into a plastic wrap scraping convention. The gunplay in this game leaves a lot to be desired. Not only do the guns feel like they have no weightiness to them whatsoever, but they don't ever really feel all that powerful either. Really, the combat in general is pretty weak, which puts a damper on a lot of the game. I mean, at this stage, most of the combat looks like this. And it makes me really not want to fight too much. The only thing that I think would increase my interest in wanting to fight with this particular combat would be an experience system, but it is what it is. The peculiarity of Andrew Ryan's Funhouse really starts to show itself here, as a tape tells you that anyone who expects anything for free is considered a parasite, including healthcare. This is only furthered by these health stations which cost $14 to patch you up, and that even hacking instantly costs money. What's cool is that these enemies will actually use them in battle if you don't kill them before they make it over to a station, and that stations can be hacked to hurt the enemy instead of healing them, which I like a lot as a mechanic. Also, Steinman went absolutely nuts with the power of Adam. His logs revealed that he was a simple cosmetic surgeon who went from being able to only take care of warts and blemishes to being able to completely sculpt and shape the body and face of humans to whatever he wished them to look like. This caused him to start luring in women with promises of making them beautiful, and then just going to town on their faces with whatever idea popped into his mind, while sculpting his own face in between sessions. He cites Picasso as his inspiration, claiming that the painter got bored of painting humans normally and instead began to use cubes and shapes to represent them. So Steinman decided that he wanted to start trying to apply this cubism to his patients. Well, getting to him for his key has you taking a tour of the Funhouse's take on all things medical. You have the crematorium, which nets you the incinerate plasmid, Dandy Dental, which nets you the telekinesis plasmid, and a couple of bonus tonics which give you additional skills along the way, such as stronger melee attacks with the wrench and regaining health from successful hacking attempts. I have to say, the layout of this area is pretty seamless, although each area is also pretty damn short. It's one of those things where you have to go to the doctor to get the key, but you have to clear the wreckage to the doctor using telekinesis, which can only be accessed after you've gotten the incinerate plasmid. Each little side area takes maybe 5 minutes max, but there are also other parts of the map that are completely skippable if you so choose. As relatively bland as combat can be, the whole area is designed around exploration and keeping your interest sated with different bits of lore about Rapture and how things work around here. While the exploration is pretty fun, the looting system could also definitely use an overhaul. You know how in more modern Bethesda games it'll tell you if a crate is empty before you even open it? Well, that's not the case with BioShock. Sure, you could say, it's more realistic this way, but it's also 10 times more tedious. Beyond that, you drink and eat every single little consumable item that you pick up. No big deal, right? Well, considering that cigarettes decrease your health and increase your EVE, and alcohol does the opposite, it's a little annoying when you consider that the only thing that you can do upon opening a container is consume all of it. So maybe some bandages which provide a flat heal are combined with cigarettes which also harm your health, and you have no choice but to ignore the stack or take it all, which works against you healing if that's your goal. In addition to this, I'm at a stage in the game where I can only equip 2 offensive plasmids at a time. This means giving up my Incinerate or Shock for telekinesis, and unfortunately I deemed Shock to be more useful for clearing mobs. So now I've missed a fragment of the area due to it being iced over until I find an upgrade station or gene bank. It's just a little silly is all. Anyways, I confront the good doctor who's gone absolutely insane, his genetic recoding causing him to see visions of Aphrodite commanding him to slice people up to become quote-unquote perfect. After this is my actual first face-to-face encounter with the little sister, and my formal meeting with Tenenbaum. Tenenbaum is someone who I've collected a handful of tapes about, a genius of a scientist who served the Germans presumably back in World War II, when she was 16 years old. She admonished the Germans for being so quick to judge those who they deemed to be too stupid or physically ugly, feeling as if these rejects had a lot of potential in their own ways. She was also the one who created the Little Sisters, viewing them as her children. Atlas implores me to harvest the remaining little sister for as much Atom as possible in order to power me up, while she guarantees to make it worth your while to save them from their altered state and revert them back to the ugly little Fable characters that they were always meant to be.
No! 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 No!
Howdy, friend. Heard my little broadcast, did you? Yeah, you look the type.
Well, you can see what route I'm going for here because, hey, the mystery of the science lady is enticing. After my encounter with that thing, a place to spend my newfound fortune conveniently opens up on the other side of the room with a tape from Steinman explaining that the little sisters are nearly indestructible from being infused with some sort of sea slug. The slug produces the atom which courses through the little sisters and has become symbiotic to a point that it's thought to be impossible to separate them from it without death. After this, I finally get to take on a Big Daddy, which is about as epic as you might expect it to be. Then it's off to Neptune's Bounty, where Atlas explains that Andrew Ryan ran Rapture into the ground, but he's unsure why or how. Neptune's Bounty is definitely more challenging than the previous area, and I actually wind up biffing it to a large father right at the start. The thing that I really like about Big Daddies besides their names is the fact that they won't really bother you unless you get close to their little sister. And on top of that, some splicers in the area tend to open fire on Big Daddies also, which really helps draw away the fight from yourself. After I managed to take this one down, I received Tenenbaum's gift in the form of 200 Eve, a plasmid, and some armor-piercing rounds. So to break that down, if I were to harvest the sisters, I'd receive 480 Eve for every 3. If I saved them, I gained 440 for every 3, plus a free plasmid and whatever else. I'd say the latter is the better deal, even if I don't get to choose my plasmids. I haven't mentioned this yet, but I think the Circus of Values vending machine might be one of my favorite things in BioShock just due to how creepy, ridiculous, and funny that they sound.
Welcome to the Circus of Value!
So to get through this area, this crazy dude wants me to get him a type of research camera and use it to take pictures of these crazy spider splicer enemies. This has me trekking through an area littered with cameras, turrets, and assholes. Remember that one time when I was like, boy, I sure do remember liking the Pipe Dream hacking minigame? Yeah, I changed my mind. It was fun at first, but holy fuck. I mean, the alternative is just blasting the shit out of turrets, but it's almost a waste of ammo when I can just hack them and have them take care of any splicers coming my way. The research camera that I retrieve has me taking these Pokemon Snap photos of enemies which get graded and fill a bar at the bottom. Filling the bar gains me a bonus in damage against enemies. I guess I'm 50-50 on this particular mechanic. On one hand, it's a neat way to gain bonus damage, but on the other hand, it's a little tedious to switch to the camera to snap a shot of an enemy before they brain me. Speaking of combat, Neptune's Bounty took the easiness of blasting a single enemy or two with no issues and went, yeah, but what if we threw like 3 or 4 or a dozen enemies at you at once? This increases the difficulty tremendously as I go from walking through the area with almost no issues and full health kits to coveting every single kit that I could get my hands on. As weird as it sounds, I think this is probably the most effective way to make this type of combat system more interesting, as I'm now snapping my mouse in every direction to blast whatever is giving me trouble while trying to keep my eye on my health in the top left. The story of this area revolves around Frank Fontaine, the leader of a ring of smugglers who brought in tons of contraband to create a black market empire. Atlas mentions that Fontaine has been dead for a while, and yet everyone still seems to jump at his shadow. Andrew Ryan regarded Fontaine as dangerous, but only so much as to keep his eye on him at first. This allowed Fontaine to begin spreading his empire, investing in atom and plasmids and building houses for the poor so as to recruit them into his splicer army. Eventually, Andrew Ryan found himself constantly working against Fontaine, going so far as to introduce the death penalty to prevent further smuggling of various goods. From the looks of it, these goods contain things like the Holy Bible, whiskey, and weapons from the surface. So basically, the Tennessee starter pack. Tenenbaum also mentions needing to rely on Fontaine to procure her research materials, even comparing Fontaine to the Germans and his efficiency. Speaking of, it's also revealed through one of these audio tapes that little sisters were created by using daughters from various Rapture residents, as one of the tapes go on about the woman's daughter returning to them with a Big Daddy accompanying her, stabbing at whatever corpses were around from the riots and fighting. This is pretty much the end of Neptune's bounty, barring a few more splicers. One of the mechanics introduced is a weapon upgrade station, which I thought would reward me with bakery fresh cinnamon buns, but instead gave me a weapon upgrade. I don't know what that's about, but I suppose I'll begrudgingly take it. Well, the next area has me running through the hidden chunks of Rapture, which the smugglers from Fontaine's faction used to run their contraband through. Atlas is starting to get old at this stage, as he tends to keep going, "Oh, me family is just around the corner. Oh, it's just so frustrating. Oh, please come help me so I can get to me wife and child." Well, turns out if I had waited for about 5 more minutes of gameplay, the problem would have taken care of itself, as Atlas's loved ones are sitting down in this submarine. Well, Andrew Ryan speaks directly to you, telling you, don't pull that lever. I pull the lever, and the lights kinda go out. Everything short circuits, and I get to watch as splicers start clawing at the submarine. Atlas gets the door open, I boogie down to the submarine, and it just sort of challengers out of existence. Well, I'm glad Atlas couldn't hear me bitch about him talking about his family, because I was starting to doubt that they actually existed, and I was just being strung along. I guess it doesn't exist right now, which means I'm technically still correct. So that's all for Smuggletown. Next up is Arcadia, where Atlas promises to, have you bring justice unto Ryan. Come on, help me out, dude, Jesus. Well, Arcadia at first glance seems to house a plant-strewn area known as the Tea Garden. It's explained that the ghosts I've been seeing are the side effects of the atom coursing through me, causing my DNA to ravel together with previous people. It's bullshit. They just wanted to use ghosts as a device to show things that used to happen in Rapture and decided to write it off as genetic magic. Also, the Tea Garden is some kind of advanced fuck garden, used to lure ladies in on a charming and romantic tour. Neat. The new stuff in this area comes in the form of these disappearing splicers which poof into petals when they're damaged a bit, and also crafting ammos from spare parts found around the area. The crafting doesn't always seem worth the time, but the Houdini splicers add a level of intensity which most other splicers don't, and I like their design a lot. Another tape shines a little more light on how things started to go to hell. Ryan decided to order his men to kill everyone who didn't fight for him, claiming that there were no innocents, only heroes and criminals. The bigger part to Arcadia is all of these trees. With there being no breathable oxygen below the ocean, this hub is essential to keeping the residents of Rapture alive. Well, Ryan decides, yeah, fuck that, let's burn all the trees here, which hinders my progress in getting to him as the area goes on lockdown. So we gotta get to the botanist who invented and planted these types of trees in the first place, who sends you on a fetch quest for a type of rose. This whole quest line completely reverses that feel-good sensation of exploring an area like I did in the medical pavilion. Because here in Arcadia, I explored as much as I could before heading towards the objective like always, only for the objective to tell me to go back the way I just explored. Except now there's new enemies spawning in. It really makes you want to forego exploration until you've taken care of the objective, which kind of sucks for my style of play. Either way, the lady gets killed off by Andrew Ryan, and you figure out that you need a couple more ingredients from a different area in order to save the trees. Sure is fortunate that only the way to Ryan is blocked off due to lack of oxygen. Anyways, onwards to the farmer's market. This area is about what you would expect, and I collect bee syrup and distilled water from around it. One of these tapes tells me how one of Rapture's doctors coerced Ryan into modifying the plasmids to mentally control splicers into working for him, effectively taking away their free will.